One of my favorite crochet projects to do is a granny square. It's classic. I've known it for years. I don't even have to think about it when I'm making it. The real question when you're getting ready to do granny squares is how many colors do you want to do? Do you want to do a different color with every round, or do a couple of rounds with one color before you switch? There's just so many variations that you can do. I'm going to show you just how I do the granny square, and it just kind of, it's one of those things that you just have in your mind. You don't even have to think about it after you've done a few. And I'm going to show you a picture here on the screen of a pillow that I've done, and that's about a 21-inch square pillow. So that's a really large granny square. Probably seeing more something that size to be done in several squares, and I decided I wanted to do one large giant granny square. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be using worsted weight yarn here, which is about a size 4, and I have a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. So with this, you can do your magic ring or magic circle, whatever you like to call it, or you can chain 3 or 4 and then join that together to make your ring to work inside of. So, and I'm showing you this with the assumption that you already know how to do your basic crochet stitches. Go ahead and just do the magic ring here. Go ahead and start out with 2 chains. Then I'm going to do 2 double crochets inside the ring, obviously. All right, so every cluster of stitches has 3 double crochets. Obviously, the very first one that you make to a round is going to be the chain 2. That's a stand-in for a double crochet. So between each cluster, when you start the first round, you're going to do a chain 2, and those are going to be the square corners. Now I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the ring. Okay, that's our second set. And I'm going to go ahead and do a chain 2 for the square corner. And another cluster of 3 double crochets. Let's see. Yeah, I have 2. Now we're doing a chain 2 for our square corner. We have, this will be our third corner, and obviously a square has, that's right, you guessed it, 4 corners. So doing my 3 double crochets. Ugh, my yarn is fighting with me here. All right, and so we have 1, 2, 3 corners, and I don't know what that is on there. I'm gonna take that off. We're gonna make 1 more corner with the chain 2. But let's see, what do I mean? We have 4 clusters already, so we don't need to make any more clusters because we have 4 for our first round. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, if you're doing a magic ring circle, you want to pull that ring in tight, and we're going to join now. We did the chain 2, or we're going to join now at the top of the last of the 2 chain 2s for our first cluster. So I like to go into the both the top stitches to do my slip. There we go. Okay, so at this point, if you wanted to change colors, you can. And so let's just go ahead and do that just for the sake of showing how to change colors. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this through once and snip the end and pull it through. So we have terminated this color, and I kind of like working in my ends as I'm going along. So I'm going to be starting my next color in the corner, and when I'm doing that, I can't really work this in if it's not in the corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the top of each stitch, I'm going to pull my end through the stitch until I get to the corner, and they're just slip stitches, okay? So you can't even tell that they're really there. They're just writing along the previous stitches. So now that I have that there, I slipped the end through, and I'm going to go ahead and do my cluster of stitches right over the top of this end that I terminated. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the slip knot. I'm going to work from one of my corners, okay, my chain 2 spaces. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to grab my loop for my next color, and I'm going to pull that through, well, theoretically. Okay, so we need to do chain 2 to be a stand-in for our first double crochet. And I'm going to actually carry that tail end of that purple also around that corner and do all my stitches right over the top of it. All right, so for each cluster, remember we need to do 3, but our first chain 2 is our first one, our first stitch. So we're going to do 2 double crochets to begin with. All right, so we are in a corner, so we have to make sure that we keep that a corner. So we're going to do chain 2, and then do in the same corner down here, we're going to work our next set of double crochet clusters. So we're going to do 3, 1, and again I'm carrying those threads, those ends underneath. So that's 1, 2, and 3. All right, so we have worked into our first corner 2 sets of double crochets with the corner chain 2 in between the 2 of them. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and snip those ends so that I don't have to deal with them any longer. So one of the things you need to remember is the only time you do any chains in between stitches is just in the corner. So we're going to be going to the other corner. We're going to be, sorry about that, get on the screen here. We're going to be going into their second corner. We are not going to do any chaining between these stitches and the next set. We're just going to go ahead and start the next cluster of 3 double crochets. So we'll do that. Now in every corner you're going to work 2 clusters of double crochets, but those will always be separated by 2 chains. I did a chain 2, now I'm doing the second set of double crochets in that corner. Okay, I'll just show that to you what we have so far. And we're going to be jumping these clusters of double crochets, and we're going to work in the next corner. Again, no chain right here. We're going to just go right over and start our next set of double crochets, which 3 of them. do chain, oops, gotta make sure I get through, do chain 2 and the second set of double crochets. 1 double crochet, and I get 2 more. Whoops. That's 2, and keep getting off camera. Sorry about that. Okay, that's 3. So we have 1 more corner, so 1 more set of double crochets to do. Remember, just jump right over there and start those. That's 3 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 2 in our second set of double crochets. And 1 more. Okay, we've done all of our corners. So the next part is joining. And again, we're going to join in the top of the chain 2 where we started our first group. Actually 3 strands to every stitch, even a chain stitch, and I like to make sure I grab 2 of those. All right, so we have a slip stitch joining that together. Now remember, at this point you could go ahead and terminate this color by pulling the end through and making the knot, and then joining the new color in at the corner. But this time I'm going to show you how you can keep going using the same color and how you would do that. And I kind of show you that already, how I moved my tail to the corner so I could weave it in. So I'm going to go ahead and do slip stitches all across these double crochets. Okay, just right at the top, all of these double crochets, I'm just doing a slip stitch and slip in my hand. Okay, and then once I do all of those, then I had two stitches to do slip stitches in. So now I'm going to slip stitch into the space, that chain 2 space. Now that got us to the corner, which is where we need to be for the next round. So I'm going to go ahead and do the chain 2 for my first stand-in double crochet and do my next 2 double crochets. I've got 3 stitches. Now I do my chain 2 because this is the corner again. And my next set of 3 double crochets. Okay, so here is where things change for us. This is a new thing. Now we have spaces in between our corners, not just the corner spaces. So we're going to work in these spaces between the corners. You will work 1 set of 3 double crochets. And again, there were no chains in between the last cluster and this cluster of double crochets. Okay, so that created another space by jumping over. Okay, so again, we're going to the corner. We are not chaining. We're just going to jump right over with our first set of double crochets. All right, this is the corner, so we're doing the chain 2 and the next set of double crochets. Okay, now we're back to the space in between, so we're just going to jump right over, do another set of double crochets. Okay, we've got 3 double crochets in that space. Now we're going to start our corner set because we've got a corner right here, so we're going to go ahead and start the first set. Now, if this is at all too fast for you, and you can slow down the playback so that you can see this closer, you can pause this, rewind, whatever you need to do in order to see this, however many times you need to see it. So now we have a space that's in between our corners, so we're just going to go ahead and do one set of the group of 3. And now we have a corner, so we're going to do the 2 sets of double crochets with this chain 2 in between them. Okay, that was 1 set of double crochet, so I'll do the chain 2 and do the second set of double crochets. One more stitch. So we have one more space to work a set of double crochets. And again, we're back to the beginning, and we're going to go ahead and slip into the top. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end this color. So I'm going to loop that through. Cut my end. And pull that through. All right, so in case you missed this from before, I'll do it again so you can see. So we're going to carry that all the way over to the space over there. So I'm going to go into the first one, pull my stitch through, go into the second one, pull my stitch through, and then through the loop on the hook. And if you're wondering why this is so short, I already did this once, but the recording got lost. The chain 2 space, so I'm going to go ahead and go in there, grab that end, and pull it through for a slip stitch. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull it through my loop that's on the hook to knot it. And yes, it's short, but I can still manage to do my stitches right over that for this corner. All right, so I'm going to go grab my next color. I got a slip knot on there, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it through that corner space. And now I'm going to head chain 2 and do, that's my stand-in for my first set of double crochets. And I'm going to also make sure I'm crocheting over the tail end of this new color that I just added in. Okay, so that's 2 and 3. That's my first cluster, or my first set of double crochets. Now we're going to do the chain 2 for our corner, and then do our next set of stitches right over those tails. And number 3. And that gray one we can actually work in a little bit more later, and just to make sure that it's a little longer and you don't want to lose that end. All right, now we have our different situation. Now we have 2 spaces. We're going to do the same as we did before with the 1 space, and that's just jump right over and do 1 set of double crochets into each of those spaces without any chaining. Okay, there's 1 set. Oops. I did not get my second one completed all the way. There we go. Did not see that until just now. Okay, now we're doing our corners. That's the 2 sets of double crochets with the chain 2 in between. Now we chain 2. Next set of double crochets. Last one. Okay. So here we have our first row, 2 corners done. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing all the way around. And when I get back to that end, I'll show you again how you can continue with the same color. So I've completed the 4th round of this granny square. I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch into that chain 2. And I'm going to go ahead and terminate this color. So I'm going to go ahead and pull through. You can make these as big or as little as you want, and you can change or keep the same color, however you want to do this. Work in all your ends into your piece. So I'm going to go ahead and make another one of these, exact same square. Maybe I will switch these 2 colors around. I'm going to make a pin cushion with this. So I'll go ahead and get started on the next one, and I'll come back and show you how I join those together. So I've got my second square finished, and I did just kind of switch the colors on the inside, but I did end with the same gray color. These are 4-inch squares, and so I'm going to actually be making a fabric pillow with the filling for a pin cushion on the inside, but I have my thread still connected to my second square here. I'm not going to cut it. I'm just going to leave it like that for right now. I'm going to put the wrong sides together for my 2 squares. I'm just going to clip it together at the corners, and that way I can kind of keep it lined up while I'm sewing it together. And I'm just reach through, and I'm just lining up my stitches, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull this through the first stitch and get that on top there. Alright, so it's basically, I'm doing single crochets all across the edge, just going through, keeping my stitches lined up and going to the tops of the stitches and doing a single crochet. So I'm going to do that all the way around on 3 sides, because I need to leave one side open in order to insert my pin cushion pillow. And then once that pillow's on the inside, then I'll finish up the fourth edge and tie it off. But I'm going to get to the corners. I actually do more stitches than just... I'm actually going to do 4 single crochets in that corner space. Sorry. Oops. That's 2, 3, and 4. And sorry, my yarn's getting tight here. And I do that obviously just because it makes a nice rounded corner. You know, it makes the corner when you do 4 stitches, it makes it all the way around the corner, and it'll stay laying flat without curling up those corners. And then just continue on with your normal single stitch per stitch. Yep. I have the bag for the pin cushion, and just to let you know how I did this, this is cotton fabric that I lined with cotton batting, and I did some stitches just to quilt it together a little bit. And then I filled this with sand as tightly as I could. I got it really, really tight. And I had an opening. I used a funnel to fill it with sand. I had an opening about 1.25 inches maybe on the top there. And when I got it as full as I could with the sand, then I just packed it with some tiny little pieces of cotton batting just to keep the sand from coming out and pack it even fuller. And so I got this really big and tight, and I ended up needing to put another round on each of my squares to make this a little bit bigger. I felt like it was a little too tight and I didn't really want to stretch it out that much. So I'm going to go ahead and put this over my bag now. There, that's a good fit. And really, when you're doing, if you want to make this into your own pillow or pin cushion or whatever, just you're going to want to do a separate pillow that goes inside, and just make sure you do it in a fabric that you like showing through on the holes with the granny squares, because they will show through. I don't like the white because I just don't like those white spots there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish stitching across this, and it's just pretty much exactly how I've been doing. When I stopped right here, I'd only done 2 stitches, 2 single crochets in this corner, so I need to finish by making 2 more stitches in that corner. Now when it comes to you know, when you're when it comes to your crochet work or your knitting, most of the time we like to do, you know, blocking. And for something like this, I feel like because it kind of gets stretched out, it's really not necessary. But you can certainly do that if you want to. And I do have a tail end for that square back there, so I will end up just crocheting and joining these together right around that tail. I'm just going to go right over it so it gets worked in as I'm stitching. So I'll go ahead and finish stitching all the way across here and show you the finished work. I only have a couple more stitches here to do across this top. And do one more. And I think I got it. We'll go ahead and tie it off, work them in. Well, there you go. There's our cute little granny square, and this one just happens to be a pin cushion. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you actually make some of your own granny squares and share them on my Facebook page, Heidi Creates 1965. I hope you are all staying happy and healthy, and until next time, have a great one. Bye for now.